Good morning. Welcome to Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm Dayna Edwards, and my pronouns are she and her. And I'm the intern minister serving this religious community along with my colleagues, Reverend Abi Janamanchi, Reverend Archine Turner, and Reverend Katie Romano Griffin. We are so lucky today to have a guest preacher with us, and that is Reverend Manish Mishra-Marzetti. Reverend Manish comes to us as the senior minister of the First Unitarian Congregation of Ann Arbor, Michigan. He is a lifelong learner and a UU leader committed to community involvement and outspoken public ministry. His included with Jennifer Keller and Justice on Earth, People of Faith Working at the Intersections of Race, Class, and the Environment, co-edited with Jennifer Nordstrom. He is warm and engaging, and his preaching style appeals to both the head and the heart. He's a deeply thoughtful person with a multicultural background, ethical and spiritual sources, including Unitarian Universalism, Buddhism, humanism, Christianity, and Lakota spiritual. Served as the senior minister of congregations in Florida, New Jersey, and we welcome Reverend Manish and all of you to our worship service today. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever your beliefs, gender identity, political views, or immigration status, you are welcome here. Thank you for taking a chance and taking the time to worship with us today. If this is your first time visiting, or if you feel new, we invite you to fill out the newcomer form in the chat. We'd love to mail you a small gift. Our pastoral visitors today are an extension of our ministry team, and they are available in the chat to support you. Don't forget to check the e-news this week and to watch your email for special auction bidding instructions and more. You're also invited to the opening night of our auction for music by our co-music coordinators, Dr. Jasmine Lee and Jenny Lynn Moyer at 7 p.m. on Friday, April 16th. We really hope you'll join us then. And as we enter into this worship experience of reflection and remembrance of joys and sorrows, of generosity and compassion, let us remember that all the noise of our neighbors and those who surround us are reminders of the connections we have to each other and to our interdependent web. Let us be mindful of the land where our beautiful and beloved church is situated. Let us be mindful of the Piscataway, Nacotchtank, and Anacostia, who have walked these lands for thousands of years and more. Let us remember those who are enslaved and worked this land without choice or reward. And let us remember all who have gone before us, whose vision and labor helped create and sustain this religious community. In this spirit we gather, in this spirit we begin. Let us begin by greeting and meeting one another in the chat.
Good morning. I'm Jessica Sawyer, the worship associate for today's service. My pronouns are she, her. I'm lighting my chalice in Rockville, Maryland. I invite you to share your location in the chat. Holy is this place, Killerin. Holy are the places of memory, the places which have formed us, where we store the icons of success and shattered dreams, and gather threads and pieces of what we would become. Holy are the places of memory. Holy are the places of the dream, the places over the rainbow, where all children are wanted and all people are fed, where colors are the source of celebration and youth and aged come together at the table as one. Holy are the places of the dream. Holy are the places of change and pain, the places of our struggle, where the rivers of our lives run white and fast, and we hold on, and grow. Holy are the places of change and pain. Holy are the places of connection. Holy are the places of becoming. Blessed is the ground beneath us. Holy and whole-making is this place.
Actually, it feels amazing on the Cedar Lane campus today. It is just teeming in life, and I'll talk about just one thing that's happening is that table right behind me is where we're collecting pledge cards, because our pledge campaign is ending today and we are really close to our goal.
Absolutely. Since we can't give people real kisses, I thought we'd give them chocolate kisses.
However, if you haven't pledged yet, there's still time. You can pledge online via the website, and you can certainly mail your pledge card into the congregation. We are checking the mail regularly.
Hi everyone. In addition to the pledge drive today, we're doing a food drive for Manna Food to collect food, and our youth helped collect food from their neighborhood, and they're bringing it all here today.
We left bags on people's porches with a note explaining that if they wanted to participate in the food drive, they would put food in the bag and leave it on their porch by a specific time that we would come and pick it up.
This is incredible.
We got 14 bags.
Thank you. And we already have one car completely loaded up. For our younger kids today, we're doing an Easter egg hunt that you can do on your own with your family so that you're COVID safer. And you go around the campus to collect different eggs that lead you to clues to make your own Lego Chalice. You open up the box and the clue is written right here. Collect your Easter egg, and inside your Easter egg is one piece of our Lego Chalice. And when you're done collecting all the Legos, there's instructions on how to make your very own Lego Chalice.
We see times and
Today, I'm going to tell you a story about big, mean Mike. And Mike is pretty mean. So if you want to grab a stuffy and somebody to hold on to, or maybe just a pillow or a warm blanket, go ahead and do that as we learn a little bit about the journey of big, mean Mike. And this story is by Michelle Knudsen, and it was illustrated by Scott Magoon. This is Big Mean Mike. Big Mean Mike was the biggest, toughest dog in the whole neighborhood. He had a big mean bark and big sharp teeth. He wore a big black collie. He leaned over to peer inside, and he was back. And this time he had brought a friend. Hey, I told you, get out, Mike barked at the first bunny, and he pointed to the second bunnies, hoping that no one was looking. He put them down outside the car. He felt their tiny little eyes watching him as he drove away. I told you this was tough. I hope you've got that pillow or that stuffy close by. On Thursday, there were 3 tiny fuzzy bunnies sitting on the hood. Get off my car, you bunnies, Mike shouted. What if someone sees you up there? The bunnies did not get off. They looked at him and wiggled their cute little noses. Mike picked them up one by one and put them on the ground. Then he spelled it out for them. Big tough dogs do not hang out with tiny fuzzy bunnies, okay? So beat it, scram, and don't come back. Mike found excuses not to use his car for the next couple of days. That big, mean car. He was staying away from it. The next weekend, Mike had a ticket to the monster truck show. He'd been looking forward to it for months. Monster trucks were big and mean, just like him. The show was in the next town over, too far to walk. Mike went out to his car and looked carefully under the hood. He checked the trunk. Then he peeked inside the glove compartment. Hey, nothing to worry about at all. When he got to the stadium, the parking lot was full of big, mean dogs getting out of their big, mean cars. None of them were as big and as mean as Mike, but some came pretty close. Mike turned off the ignition. The keys slipped from his grasp and landed on the floor. A pair of tiny white paws reached out from under the seat and picked them up. Oh, look at how big that is. Arrgh! Cried Mike. He stared in dismay as 4 tiny fuzzy bunnies hopped onto the seat. They twitched their soft little bunny ears and they blinked their cute little eyes. No, more. Please, Mike yelled. Get out of my car. The bunnies just sat there, being cute and looking at them. They are. Fine, Mike growled. Stay in there. I'm not missing the show because of you. He snatched up his keys and he slammed the door. The bunnies gazed up at him with their sweet little eyes. Gosh, you guys are cute, Mike said. Then he looked around. I mean, I hate cute. Grr, I'm big mean Mike. He started to walk away, and then he stopped and he looked around again. The parking lot full of big mean dogs was not a very good place for little bunnies. He couldn't leave them alone. It wouldn't be safe. Arrgh. Grr, Mike growled. He had no choice. All right, bunnies, he said. You can come with me, but I don't want the other dogs to see you. He got his gym bag out of the trunk. Hop in here and be quick about it, he said. And the bunnies all hopped into the bag. Mike hurried inside and found his seat, and the monster truck show was just starting. It was awesome. Mike felt his gym bag moving right on the seat beside him. The bunnies were sticking their little heads out, peering around with bright, excited eyes. All right, Mike whispered. You can watch. Just try not to let anyone see you. And one by one, the bunnies climbed out onto Mike's lap. They nibbled pieces of his popcorn. They bounced in excitement whenever a big mean truck cleared a jump or a little car got crunched under big tough tires. Mike couldn't bring himself to make them go back in the bag. They were having such a good time, and so was he. It was kind of fun to have someone to watch the show with, even better to have several someones, even if they were tiny little bunnies. Look at how cute this is. Mike's not looking so mean there, right? When the show was over, Mike noticed as a group of big tough dogs waiting for him at the end of the aisle. Got some new little friends there, Mike? One dog asked. Didn't figure you for the cute, cuddly type, said another. Guess you're not so big and mean after all, a third dog barked. Soon all the dogs were laughing and pointing, and Mike didn't know what to do. This was terrible. His image was ruined. He held on to the little bunnies in his gym bag. Then one of the bunnies leaned forward and made a tiny growly sound, and the other bunnies joined in. Mike looked down at them. Slowly, he smiled a big, mean smile. Then he looked back at the other dogs. You know what? Mike told them. I don't care what you think. I am big, mean Mike. I can hang out with whoever I want. I like these bunnies. They know how to have a good time. And they're adorable. Any of you got a problem with that? The other dogs all took a step back. No problem here, the first dog said. Yeah, we're just, kidding around, said the second dog. Good, said Mike. Now get out of our way. My friends and I are going home. From that day on, Big Mean Mike went back to driving around the big mean streets in his big mean car. He still did everything in his own big mean way, and everywhere he went, 4 tiny fuzzy bunnies went with him. And that was just the way that Mike liked it. The end.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, and our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, We are blessed with love and amazing grace when our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place.
Thank you to our music ministry team for that beautiful song. We really appreciate what you bring to our services every week. And I want to thank each of you for hanging in with us as we needed some extra flexibility this morning to navigate some AV troubles, and also for some flexibility with my neighbor who this morning has decided to cut down an entire tree in his front yard. So I apologize for any noise you may hear as a result of that. And I invite you to remember that this is how we are connected and interconnected to each other. And this morning, we take up our offering as we do every Sunday morning as a reminder to ourselves that from time to time, our offering is practical as well as symbolic. We pass the plate in our worship service to make a community expression of gratitude and blessing for abundance and to visibly bring in the harvest of our most cherished hour of the week. Our offering says that the act of giving is an essential part of our spiritual well-being. It is as essential as anything else we do on Sunday mornings. And we're grateful for the incredible generosity of our members and friends and fans throughout this time in support of our mission and ministry and the many community organizations that we partner with in service of our mission. Today, we're sharing the plate with a campaign for fair sentencing for youth. And I wanted to read for you the mission and vision of the campaign for fair sentencing because it is just beautiful and something I think we can all get behind and support financially as well as spiritually. The campaign for the fair sentencing of youth envisions the United States becoming a society that respects all children's human rights and nurtures their capacity to become leaders, responding to any harm that they cause in ways that are rooted in their dignity and unique potential for change. Together, we seek a response to the harm caused by children that is conscientious of childhood trauma, restorative and empowering to all parties, and equitable, especially with regard to race and ethnicity. So we invite you to give generously this morning to the campaign for fair youth for the fair sentencing of youth. There are many ways to give at Cedar Lane. You can give by the electronic means of our modern times, text, online giving, PayPal, and QR code, or by mailing a check to the church. We hope that you will give generously to support this amazing organization. Today's offering will now be gratefully received.
Coming to the edge, running on the water. 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 Coming to the edge, running on the water.
Each time we gather for worship, we set aside a time to expand the caring ministry of this congregation. Together, we recognize the cycles of life and death, the circle of love, compassion, and witness that is at the heart of our religious community. Our hearts are with those whose primary spiritual practice is caring for children during this pandemic. We hold in our circle of caring those who live with grief and chronic pain, with illnesses seen and unseen, and with mental illness and addiction. Those who care for family members in ill health, and those who are experiencing job loss and financial insecurity. Within our Cedar Lane community, we'd like to announce that Linda and Leonard Giannessi are proud to announce that their son, Bob, graduated this month with a master's in teaching English learners from the American College of Education. Congratulations, Bob. And we celebrate with Nancy Florine and David Stewart, who are delighted to welcome two new grandchildren, Scarlett, born March 24th, and Rex, born April 2nd. And tomorrow, we celebrate with our guest preacher, Reverend Manish Mishra-Marzetti, as he celebrates his 50th birthday. Our caring extends beyond Cedar Lane to those whose lives are lost and whose lives are impacted by the violence and calamities of our nation and in our world. We hold in our hearts those who are mourning the loss of Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, and Earl Simons, better known as rapper DMX. We hold in our hearts the more than 558,000 people who have died from COVID-19 in the United States, and the millions who are infected. And we hold in our heart those who continue to risk their health and well-being to keep us safe, healthy, fed, and connected. And our hearts are filled with gratitude for the 183 million vaccines that have been delivered to fight this virus. And now I invite you to enter into a moment of prayer and contemplation, to loosen your muscles as you can, to feel the space between each of your joints, to relax your jaw and release the tongue from the top of your mouth. Soften your gaze and breathe. 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 And as your body releases the stress from this week, I invite you to feel the presence of the divine in the room you are in the body you are in the space that you hold. Divine Spirit of all that is holy, we come to you holding feelings of hope and gratitude, fear and trepidation, and maybe even anger. We know we can find your presence in each of those feelings, and your love is big enough to hold them all, to hold even our biggest emotions. In this time, we ask for faithful reminders that we are beloved to each other and loved by one another. Remind us to give each other grace as we navigate the challenges of living through a pandemic on top of the regular challenges of life. Remind us to give ourselves grace and understanding when we mess up, and the courage to come back into community and into covenant, and to keep on trying. In the name of all that is holy and sacred, we pray. Amen, and blessed be. And as we enter into the silence, I invite you to rise in body or spirit if you are grieving the loss of a loved one or marking the anniversary of a loss. And if you feel moved to do so, you may share their name in the chat.
Open my heart to all that I seek. Let me be part of the love you give. Open my heart to all that I seek. Open my heart to open my heart to all that I seek. Let me be part of the love you give. Open my heart to all that I seek. Let me be part of the love you give. Open my heart to all that I seek. Let me be part of the love you give.
For the rebels and the misfits, the black sheep and the outsiders. For the refugees, the orphans, the scapegoats, and the weirdos. For the uprooted, the abandoned, the shunned, the invisible ones. May you recognize with increasing vividness that you know what you know. May you give up your allegiances to self-doubt, meekness, and hesitation. May you be willing to be unlikable, and in the process, utterly loved. May you be impervious to the wrongful projections of others, and may you deliver your disagreements with precision and grace. May you see with consummate clarity of nature moving through you, that your voice is not only necessary, but desperately needed to sing us out of the muddle. May you feel shored up, supported, entwined, and reassured as you offer yourself and your gifts to this world. May you know for certain that even as you stand by yourself, you are not alone.
For the rebels and the misfits, may you know with certainty that you are not alone. These words by author Takopa Turner, offered as a prayer, as a blessing, resonate very deeply with me as a Unitarian Universalist. Perhaps they do with you as well, especially the choice of words, the usage of the word rebel, misfit. We Unitarian Universalists often identify ourselves in these kinds of ways, religious, spiritual misfits, even in a way that don't fit with other mainstream denominations or mainstream ways of thinking about religion, spirituality, ethics, the people with an edge to them, the rebels. I was reminded of this last week. I was in a meeting with some staff members and we were casually sharing some stories, and I recalled one and shared one that was from my time in seminary. Our seminary process lasts for a number of years, typically 3 to 5 years of formal education and training before you even begin your initial work in a community. And one of those processes include a psychological, you could say, exam, assessment type of process. I, at that point in time in my life, 15 to 20 years ago, did not probably fully appreciate or understand what was at stake. And in fairness to me, the process back then included receiving multiple choice, fill in the answer sheet questions that numbered in the range of 500 to 1,000. It was estimated to take anywhere from 5 to 10 hours to complete all the psychological paperwork that you had to then send in to the assessment center for them to rank and grade and all that type of stuff before you even meet with the interviewer who's actually doing the assessment. So, of course, being a busy seminarian with a very full life, I waited until closer to the time where all this extensive paperwork was due. And as I sat down to do it, the questions were perplexing. And they even went from perplexing to annoying. Along the lines of true, false, multiple choice, I talk to the devil and the devil talks to me. Sometimes, never, occasionally, all the time. Like, what am I supposed to... I think about harming animals or my coworkers. Sometimes, never, always, all the time. Questions along these, I hear voices in my head that give me directions on what I should do. I mean, it was actually on and on, like hundreds of these types of questions that I found myself really thinking, like, how do you get to this far in the process if one is this unstable? Like, you actually shouldn't be able to get this far in the process and be that unstable. Feeling rushed and a bit annoyed, I left entire assessment exams unfilled and mailed them back. And other ones that I just was so annoyed by, I randomly filled in any bubble at all, just making designs on the answer sheet and sent it in. I do not recommend that any future candidates for the UU ministry do this. Like I said, I don't know that I fully understood what was at stake. And I got lucky. My interviewer, examiner, had been in this field for decades and was approaching retirement. And I was probably not the first such candidate that he had encountered. And he was very calm as the day came when I met with him, and he sat down and said, "So, you just filled in random bubbles, didn't you?" And I said, "Yep." "And then you sent in other answer sheets that had nothing on them." I was like, "Yeah. Why?" I was like, these are not meaningful questions to answer. Like, I would have no business being 3/4 of the way through seminary and meeting with you if the answers to these questions were going to be troubling. Even more so, if I was somehow in some deeply unbalanced place where some of these things you're asking about might be true for me, I would lie to you knowing that this is an assessment process. So I don't actually see any value in the selections you all made of which of these tests to send me and what the content of these exams were. The interviewer looked at me quite bemused, just kind of like this, and said, "You are so you." And like I said, I got lucky. There are candidates for the ministry that get into difficulty for far less than what I pulled in that process. And honestly, I could have gotten into quite a bit of difficulty. He understood our denomination. And in fact, I even took it as a mark of pride. Yeah, I am UU. I am the person who's going to question the very validity of this exam that you've chosen for me to take. Under what criteria, I don't know, but wasting my time with questions that I feel don't have any merit for me or for the process we're engaged in. But I'll decide that for myself without any conversation or consultation with you. I was and continue to be very UU in all of those regards. And quite lucky for me, that interviewer had worked with enough Unitarian Universalists that he understood our ilk, our culture, our Unitarian Universalist culture, identity, and history. The philosopher John Locke, writing one of the earliest pivotal treatise on the nature of human identity, this is back in 1690, identified that human identity, individual sense of identity, is connected to memory and history, things that we are deeply tied to, things that are a part of our lived experience. And in that regard, we Unitarian Universalists have a very rich history in which we proudly claim and burnish the credentials of being heretics to the mainstream religion. Now, for those of you who know our history, this is connected to the early 19th century. Unitarians in particular, both the Unitarians and the Universalists come out of Puritan New England forms of Protestantism and departed from more mainstream understandings within New England Protestantism. Now, when that started to happen on the Unitarian side of the family tree, the more mainstream, what became the traditional or orthodox Calvinistic Protestants began to launch what back in that age, now you may remember from civics, that pamphleteering, the use of small little printed pamphlets, was a central part of politicking in the early days of our nation. People would publish little pamphlets that had political treatises in them, thinking about important subjects, and they would distribute them as a way to help spur debate, ideological debate. Well, the traditionalists, the more Calvinistic centered Protestant traditionalists who were upset about Unitarians becoming too progressive, too liberal, launched a pamphleteering campaign against us. They tried to isolate the early Unitarians and label us as heretics, label the early Unitarian ideology, philosophy as heresy. They utilized a political tactic to try and place pressure on the early progressive Unitarians. Well, what do a people that are feeling besieged often do? They take the labels of heresy, claim them, and subvert them, turn them into a mark of pride. So alongside the label of heresy, these early Unitarian, the word Unitarian, in fact, emerged in this time period out of these pamphleteering campaigns. The heresy was called the Unitarian heresy as opposed to Trinitarian. So the people who believed in this unity behind all creation or one divine presence, that's the heresy. You don't want to be called a Unitarian. The word was in fact originally a slur. It was an insult. The early Unitarians take the slur, they co-opt it, they make it their own. And they say, yeah, we're Unitarian. We'll take that as a mark of pride that you're labeling us as heretics. And by the way, here's what we mean by being Unitarian. We're committed to the lived reality of spiritual ethics, of living into in that time period, the ethical teachings of Jesus were the central thing that they focused on in the early 19th century. So that the claiming of the label of heretic, of the slur of being Unitarian, and taking it on as a mark of pride was an early part, a defining part of our history and culture on the Unitarian side of the family, absolutely, very strongly so. And that merged into the tradition that we're now a part of, the Unitarian Universalist tradition. Now, if we take culture as being defined by these memories, by this collective memory, the history that we're a part of, bring it on up into the future. Political scientist Frank Fukuyama, he has a 2018 book called Identity. And Frank Fukuyama, in his book Identity, he refers to a term, now he's a political scientist, megalothemia, which is, it's a fancy word phrase, megalothemia. It means exceptionalism. This idea of megalothemia,
Hi, everyone. We seem to have a plethora of AV issues today that we are working on, and I apologize for having to stop right in the middle of this excellent sermon by Reverend Manish and his call to invite us to think about when we claim the idea of heretics, of being a UU heretic, and when we and when is that appropriate, and when do we need to kind of drop that mantle of heretic and be beloved with one another? So that is what Reverend Manish was going to be speaking about and started speaking about. And I can share, as we continue to try to figure out the technical difficulties here, I can share with you all a story of when I had to claim my heresy. When I was doing my CPE, which is clinical pastoral education, which is another part of the training of becoming a UU minister, where you need to go out into the community or go out into a hospital and do pastoral care, to sit with the sick and dying, and to develop your ministerial presence in times of crisis and times of need. And as part of that, you are paired with other people. You are grouped with some colleagues, interfaith colleagues from different denominations. Could be Jewish, could be Muslim, could be Christian, could be evangelical Christian or Catholic. And you're all kind of put together into these cohorts. And as part of our training in these cohorts, each of us had to share what we believed, what our denomination believed. And as you know, we are a non-creedal faith, so I didn't have a creed to share with my cohorts. And so I shared with them a little bit about what we believe, what I believe, that, God is love and love is God. And then I just said, you know what, I'm going to come clean. We're heretics. Unitarian Universalists are heretics. We were, our history is one where we were burned at the stake during the Reformation, with Francis David, who was burned at the stake for claiming his Unitarian heritage, that God is one and one is God, that there is no Trinity. And so I claimed our heretic nature in that outward sense, as a badge of honor, such as Reverend Manish speaks about as well. And I'm going to check in with our AV team now to see how we're doing. Should we?
Culture defines who we are today. He notes that a sense of exceptionalism is a part of every society and every culture. I would posit that our connection to these notions of being heretics, of being rebels, of being the activists that don't accept anything just because authority is telling us to accept something, that we will turn it on its head, examine it inside out, determine if it is valid or not, whether it has value or not. We take that rebel, heretic, activist part of Unitarian Universalist culture and history as an immense source of pride. It is, in fact, our source, one of our sources, I would say, of Unitarian Universalist exceptionalism. We are an exceptional people because of our history of being proud heretics and rebels that have bucked tradition, orthodoxy, and authority. Now, that proud legacy that we relish in that identity. Everything that's a strength has a flip side. We know this as human beings. Any strength taken to extremes always becomes a flaw. We know this as human beings. It is universally true. What might some of the flaws, or taken to an extreme, this sense of pride in being heretics, rebels, and activists, what are some of the troubles that might emerge at the extreme, or are inherently part of the flaws of that strength? This is something that one of our forebears, now this is not a new question. I want to ground us in our history very intentionally. One of our forebears on the Unitarian side of the family, renowned theologist from the 19th century, James Freeman Clarke, in an 1854 essay entitled Polemics and Irenics, he wrote this, 1854, "I wish that some competent person would write an essay on the temptations, dangers, duties, and opportunities of being a heretic. It would be an interesting and useful subject. No doubt to be a heretic exposes one to temptation. It involves mental danger and moral danger, and it also furnishes grand opportunities." The opportunities we know. We are the legacy of decades, if not centuries, of that tradition, of turning things on its head, looking for the value, pushing the edges of society. Our history of being the people at the end of social justice movements, time and time again for decades and if not centuries, is born, grounded in the rebel and activist identity. We are the people that will buck all authority for the sake of what will serve humanity well. All of us, serve all of us well, collectively over time. And we are constantly the people on the edges of that, pushing for that, yearning for that, working for that. And even in the mid-19th century, one of our foremost theologians knew that there's a flaw, that there's an edge to that we must wrestle with. His word, a danger, a cognitive, mental and moral danger. Now, what do we rebels and heretics do? And this is where I'm going to draw in. Some of you know my now deceased beloved Elandria Williams, who worked so closely with our congregation. In the final 2 months before she died, her and I still serving together on the National UUA board, in a private conversation between the two of us, she said to me, Manish, one of the things our movement is wrestling with, we don't know the difference. We're getting confused about the outside game versus the inside game. This is how Elandria phrased it. The outside game versus the inside game. Outside, encountering social injustice, inequities, things that are being overlooked, we bring alive the people who are the heretics. We don't care what anyone thinks of us. We are the rebels pushing the edges of society to meet the needs of the day and turn into the things that the society is not willing to confront and look at. We take that outside game, that external posture, and we bring it into, I don't think it's conscious. I think it's subconscious. I think it's by default. We bring exactly that same energy. Exactly that same energy to bear in terms of how we within our community relate to one another. how we talk to one another, how we relate to our lay elected leaders, how we relate to our staff. Not always, but I would absolutely say when we are at our worst. We treat our own leadership and one another in community as if we are lobbying Capitol Hill and marching with signs in our hands, shouting and yelling for the people that we are in community with to notice us, change, and take into account whatever perspective or opinion we are holding. Now, the flaw with this, we are in covenanted community with one another. We are not one another's enemies. We, in fact, share the vast majority of values in common. Therefore, it's not necessary to act like a lobbyist within one's own community, to bring the posture of indignant advocacy in our conversations with one another. It's not necessary, and in fact, it's harmful. It hurts relationship. It makes us feel like we're on the defensive with one another, rather than being beloved community members with one another who can work out differences and be present to differences, lovingly, rationally, talk through things that we wish might be different or more evolved within our own community. We confuse the outside posture with how we are called to be, in fact, need to be with one another. Here's what's missed. When we conflate the outside posture with the inside posture, make the outside game the same thing as the inside game, we forget, we lose covenant. We're intentionally in a different kind of relationship inside community, within community, with one another. We are not heretics, rebels, and activists with one another. With one another, we are beloved. There's the difference. With one another, we are beloved. We lose sight of that. We go to being the heretic and the rebel within our own community when our very practices of how we are in community together call and invite us to do something else, something different. Think of the story from earlier in the service today, the story of Big Mean Mike, the bulldog, who discovers as kin, as family, bunnies. And the bunnies, being so loving and cute and adoring, eventually break down the bulldog, pull the bulldog into their circle as beloved. Yes, we are the people who have thumbed our nose at all of religious society everywhere, pretty much in spirit, as the heretics who are doing it our own way, who are critical thinkers, who are building a new way of being together in community. Yes, we are all of that. And we should chill that out just a little bit and remember the word beloved when we speak with one another. You are that to me. May we be that with one another.
Thank you so much, Reverend Manish, and thank you to all of you who hung in there with us during our technical difficulties. As we leave this space, I invite you to contemplate these words. Let us be wise enough to discern the inside game from the outside game. Let us remove the mantle of lobbyist, heretic, rebel when we relate to one another. Let us embrace our covenanted community, and let us remember the word beloved when we speak to one another. May it be so.
for the rebels and the misfits.